Okay, time for the November 2023 Power Rankings. This one's kind of fun because we have a lot of new or newish names on it. Not necessarily like new, but names we haven't seen too much on the Power Rankings making the list, which is always just great to see. So, what happened this month? We had the end of TTAC 15, and signups for the next SC went up. We had one chat tournament, two TTA GBs, and four TTN GBs because it both has the TT board and the TTM board. So that's 8 total events this month, which is pretty good. And I just wanted to talk a little about how I score the things, right? Like, obviously, majors count for the most, but it's a little tricky because they happen over such an extended time frame. When do you give the credit, right? If I was like this month saying, yes, you made the quarterfinals, but you made the quarterfinals 2.5 months ago, right? That just, it always feels a little weird. So I gave some credit last month, and I'm going to give some credit this month. But this month's credit, at least a chunk of it, is going to be to the people that actually played this month. I think there's nothing too controversial there. In general, I value the weekly opens higher than GBs, but specifically, I value making finals or winning the weekly opens a lot more than I value kind of top two finishes in GBs. But semifinals, I don't value particularly more than third or fourth in GBs. You won one round, you lost one round. I don't draw as much from that. And then what I do want to say is I am going to be valuing the TTA GBs clearly more than the TTN GBs. There's a little more activity usually, not necessarily all that much, but there's usually a little more activity. But there's also a scarcity thing where if you play the TTM GBs, there's just more events for you. And yeah, I wanted to give, because that inherently gives a lot of credit to TTN, right? It is half the events this month. I wanted to keep that a little more balanced. All right, nothing too important there. In ninth and 10th, we have Sachi and Cloaked One. I think technically Cloaked One gets ninth. He had a slightly higher score in his third place finish, but they each came third in GBs with clearly over 100 scores. And this is the first time Sachi's making our list, and Cloaked One's second time making the list. Um, there were two players who got two top four finishes in TTN GBs that you could argue over these two, but I went for these two this time. And it's always just nice to see different names as well. In eighth, we have an entirely new name, Seriously Cutie. This was the second highest GB score of the month. That probably doesn't include the TTNs, but on TTA, so it came second, but it was also higher, I believe, than any of the scores in the other GB. So a very strong first showing by a new name, or perhaps an old one. Stay tuned. But not in this video, we won't talk about it again. But really exciting to see people either starting playing or coming back and immediately performing well. In seventh, and there have been a bunch of new accounts recently. In seventh, we have Frodo, who was a runner up in Chat Tournament 49. This is Frodo's second appearance on the Power Rankings and his highest finish with a deep run. And it's always nice to see someone going like, yay, this is the first time I've advanced 2 rounds, because that feeling feels great. And it's nice to know that people, you know, feel that joy of succeeding at something difficult, right? This is a hard game with tough competition to come into, and I'm really happy for him. In sixth, we have Cool Spot, just a whole slew of TTN results. In fifth, we have Tezuka. I've talked about this a lot, and not all the videos have come out yet because my videos on TTAC are not yet done coming out. But yeah, can't get over his run over 2 years of TTAC 15. Just going 14 and 0 over 7 consecutive rounds in TTAC seems ridiculous to me. It's just so hard to win that reliably. And he has a semifinals in Chat Tournament 49 to go with it. If he just had the semifinals in TTAC 15, because basically that means this is the month you lost, I would not have had him on the list. But once you add another activity result, you start looking at the semifinals and being like, yeah, we haven't given enough credit over time for this. This is really impressive. Let's give the points. In fourth, I think we have a very clear top four. We have Vid. Now, Vid was lucky losered through the quarterfinals. He did lose to Tezuka. That was another reason I thought highly of Tezuka here. but he then beat his semifinals opponent and lost in the finals to a person who shall be named shortly. But so I wasn't sure quite how to judge that, but he did win one of the two TTAC matches this month, and it was obviously against a top opponent, given, it was the semifinals. And he also had really good results in other competitions. I think he's very clear fourth. I think he's not all that close to the top three, given the circumstances around the finals, but I think he is well ahead of anyone else. And he jumped a whole bunch of spots. We'll get to this shortly in my Player of the Year rankings. Coming fourth here was a big leapfrog moment. In third, we have Yevon. Now, Yevon was semifinalist in TTAC 15, ends up losing to Vid. He's also one of 3 players to have won an event this month, winning TTN-GB 17. He also tied for first in a second GB and came top 4 in 2 other events. Very strong month for Yevon. He is not able to become the first player to win Player of the Month 3 months in a row, but going first, third is just unbelievable. Yevon maintains crushing every event. He is having such a good end to the year. Really, really remarkable play. All right, in second, we have Turds. This would often be a sufficient resume because he won or tied for first in half the events this month and finished top 2 in 5 of 8 events this month, as well as quarterfinals in a major. So, not bad for Turds. But he is also not my pick for Player of the Month, and it wasn't all that close because Delial wins TTAC 15, but not only that, he competes not in that many other events and wins 2 of them. So he wins 3 of the 8 events this month, including by far the biggest event. This is his 7th championship, which ties the all-time record. He is the 3rd person to win 7. He is the 2nd person to win 2 TTACs, tying Broccoli's record. Those are the only 2, Broccoli and Delial, to have won 2 TTACs. I think it's fitting, especially it's kind of neat because TTAC has really historically felt like the all-rounder tournament, right? And winning it tends to go along with winning all-rounder of the year, though, some years it varies. But Delial's been winning that award in the return, and it's nice to see him cap it with this kind of result. And this was not a hard choice for Player of the Month because he won the major, but his other results are great too. And he's not been able to be that active in the past few months, and it's nice to see him winning like all the events he plays, basically. So our Player of the Year race, Delial grows his lead. It's between Delial and Turds. Third place would have to play like 3 months either of them didn't to catch up. So with 1 month left, Delial or Turds will be my Power Rankings Player of the Year winner. Turds is the reigning champion of it. Delial has enough of a lead that if he is at all active in December, he will probably clinch, even if Turds can win the Player of the Month. But it's very likely to be Delial 1 and Turds 2, but there is still a chance for Turds to catch him. And, sometimes people just don't have the time. So definitely possible Turds catches him, but Delial is large favorite to take it. There is a big gap behind them. And to me, that kind of indicates, given how large the gap is, like, when we're voting for the actual Player of the Year, these probably should be the 2 main contenders. There have been, I guess, 4 majors this year. I won Triad Wars, but I've been inactive. Turds won Cosmos. Deli won TTAC. And Cookie won SE Zidane. I don't think I'm missing anything. Now, you don't have to have won the major to be the pick, but I think those 4 are a natural first 4 to look at. And, Delial and Turds, Turds finaled Triad Wars as well as winning his major. Delial finaled Cosmos as well as winning his major. It really feels to me like it should be between those 2. Like, month in and month out, they've been the best, but also they're the only 2 players with 2 finals and majors. I think it's got to be between those 2 for Player of the Year. And I think either one would be a very good pick. but I guess I'm advocating that it's one of those two. And I mean, I'm sure we can make cases for other people. Like, it was so cool to see Cookie and Kaus's runs in SC Zidane. There's other people in the conversation. Yevon has had a phenomenal end to the year. Reye started the year at least on par with those two. Yevon ended the year at least on par with those two. But for the overall year, oh, Yevon wins Balance of Power, and Yevon has had such a good end to the year. Yevon could be in the conversation. I could see Yevon having a very good case for it. I think it's between Deli and Turds, but Yevon would be an interesting other person to consider. In our race for third, Yevon has moved up to fifth. Very good end to the year, not as good start to it. Reyes start still has him right in the fight for third, despite being inactive for a whole number of months now. Akiyama drops to sixth. I think he entered the month in fourth, but both Vid and Yevon passed him. He had an inactive month. And Vid moves up to third. So we have a really close race for third. Not sure who's going to get the podium spots. Yevon has, in general, of recent been finishing higher than Vid, but Vid has, generally speaking, done better over the course of the whole year by a little bit. It's going to be close. And you could very easily imagine Akiyama winning Player of the Month in December and, passing all of them. So, interesting race for third, and an interesting race for first as well. But yeah, while I do Player of the Year voting advocacy, I would, in general, say Delial and Turds should be the top two contenders, and maybe there's someone else in the race, but those are very clearly two of the two or three people in the race. One interesting thing about them, though, is the events they both won were both events that had some open and some closed. And so they both have very strong Player of the Year contendership, but they also both have very strong kind of all-rounder contenders. And I would be really disappointed if neither of them won all-rounder of the year this year. There's a case for other people for pure closed, Cookie, Kaus, people like that, or just whoever's rocking it closed, right? If you see someone crushing the trade games, like, yeah, they're probably playing the best closed, or just about. And there might be a chance for other people on pure open, but I think for all rounder as well, those two are way ahead of the field. And I guess that's it for this month. I wanted to talk about Player of the Year stuff because I won't release my December video until, after. I never know the schedule, but I think until after most or all voting has happened. So this is the time to get in my thoughts. Also, really incredible how good Reye was at the start of the year and how good Yevon has been at the end of the year. If you could just combine their resumes, obviously there is some overlap between them, so unlike Delial or Turds, Reye combined with Yevon will sometimes finish twice in the same month. But if you could combine those two players, you would have a third player, right? It would be Delial and Turds and Reye Yevon. And that would be amusing to me, at least. All right, that's all I got. Congrats to this month's winners, and yeah, I totally forgot I was supposed to make this video, so I'm making it a bit later than I usually do. I do try to make it either the night of the final day or the first of the next month, but rarely do I wake up on the first, do some stuff, and then remember, oh, I'm supposed to get this out today. So, a little more hectic than usual, and yet, somehow, fewer typos. So, go me.